So in this video, I'm going to talk about Elon Musk and his recent acquisition of Twitter. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to conclude with an overall assessment of whether it's worth it or not, and perhaps some suggestions going forward from a third-party neutral observer point of view. Recently, Elon Musk acquired Twitter. The overall cost of the transaction was $44 billion. There's a great NPR article published on 16 November 2022. And I'm going to link that article below that's got, the basic details of what happened. But basically, Elon Musk spent $44 billion on the deal, and he actually had to borrow $13 billion for the deal. So I'm going to start off with talking about the cons or the negatives of this particular deal. First of all, as a user of Twitter for the past so many years, I've tried to use Twitter. It's probably my least favorite social media platform for many reasons. Used it on and off over the years. Again, this is anecdotal. This is just my personal experience with Twitter, is that it's it's not really fun to use. You basically are limited to a very small number of characters, and then usually you put in some hashtags so that it'll link what you're saying to that particular topic. And if you like to think in more detailed and more in-depth thoughts, Twitter's not very good because it doesn't allow you to really expound on what you're saying. You would almost have to link a YouTube video to get a complete thought out. And so this is one of the limitations of modern communication is, if you go back to the ancient classics like Plato's Republic or Thucydides or whatever, you'll see these really detailed arguments that or dialectic debates to really try to discover the truth. So like in a tweet, that's a little blurb of information, it's very difficult to get out anything of substance, okay? And the other problem as a user is as soon as you've tweeted something, it's almost immediately obsolete or drowned out in just the noise of millions of other people tweeting. So you'll tweet something and then it'll be the newest thing, and then it will very quickly be replaced by newer tweets on the same subject. So within 20 minutes, the tweet that you've tweeted is already lost in a just cacophony of random things that have been posted, and it's drowned out in an ocean of other tweets. So if you're a small time person and you're not well known, or you're not mega rich or mega famous already, Twitter is not a particularly useful platform. You would have to just put an insane amount of work to build a following on Twitter. And so what I've noticed, at least anecdotally, is that someone, say, has 5,000 followers, they're probably following 10,000 people. And the idea is that if you follow me, I'll follow you. So it's kind of like people will go out and follow someone with the hope that that person will follow them in return. And oftentimes what happens is there's a discrepancy or a gap between how many followers you have and how many people are following you. And typically, it's almost like you have to follow 1,000 people, and then maybe you'll have 500 followers in return. Maybe some of those people, or half of them, if you're lucky, will go ahead and follow you. In fact, I would say that YouTube is much better for a person who wants to get started, because if you have high quality content, there's not as many people. I mean, there's still a lot of creators on YouTube, but there's not nearly as many people who are willing to actually put together a well thought out argument and make a video about that topic. And it's much easier on YouTube to search for a particular topic and find the video that you like. And then, there's a lot in the artistic, the thumbnails and things like that actually take a lot of effort to really build a really good video and to make a really good YouTube channel. Whereas Twitter, you're just sending out blurbs of information. It's incoherent. It's not really complete. You got hashtags, and you very quickly get drowned out by the noise of other people posting superficial tweets on the same topic. What Twitter is good for is someone who is already rich and already famous and already powerful. So for example, Donald Trump, when he went onto Twitter, he was already rich, he was already famous. He'd already been around for decades as a real estate person, as a mega rich person, as a TV person, TV personality, and then a politician, and then a president. So when he went in to Twitter as president, he immediately had tens of millions of people that were instantly willing to follow him because of who he already was. And so Twitter was useful for him because people were like, hey, what's the president tweeting today? So they would go into Twitter and they would be able to see, almost like they could live in his head rent free, because whatever he thought, he was just tweeting out. And so they could get kind of a window into the mind of President Trump while he was on Twitter. And so as already a well-established person, Twitter has a lot of utility because you can very efficiently get your message out to the people who are already your fans, who already are following you, who already care about you. So Twitter has a lot of utility for the powerful and for the famous. It has moderate to little utility for people who are not famous and not particularly well known. So again, it's not one of my favorite social medias for those reasons as well. The cons, I would say probably the biggest cons would be the cost. $44 billion is a really big sum of money for a social media platform. You could argue that for a fraction of that, Elon Musk probably could have made his own startup from the ground up. He could have taken some Ivy League computer science major dropouts and give them like $100 million and said, here you go. So let's see what you can do. Because with technology, it's like you really don't need an insane amount of money to start up a new platform. You need servers, you need basic infrastructure, but $44 billion honestly seems pretty egregious. It seems very overpriced. The second downside of Twitter would be structural problems with Twitter. So it's kind of like saying, do I want to go buy an old house that's rotten to the core, that's got termites and all the beams and the wood frame is rotten to the core? Or do I want to try to refurbish that and restore it? Or do I want to just go build a new construction from scratch? Okay. And you could say that the new construction from scratch is probably better in many ways because you can put in the latest wiring, new beams, new wood, a new wood frame. You can build a new solid foundation from the ground up. And so when you build a new house, you know what you're getting because you've built every component of that yourself. When you take over an old house, an antique house, then, you think, well, I've fixed the termite problem and I fixed the faulty wiring, but who knows what else you're going to find. There could be all kinds of things lurking within the framework of that house. So I would say $44 billion for not a particularly useful platform is probably the biggest disadvantage. What are the advantages? Well, the advantages are, it's already known, it's already a known entity, and it's already got name recognition, and it's already got a bunch of users, and it's already established. So those are the advantages. Okay, so like anything, it's really a cost benefit. Is the $44 billion worth the name recognition and the existing infrastructure? Okay, only time will tell. So what is the final analysis on this? To be determined. To be determined. A lot of it depends on how well Elon Musk can manage Twitter. He's laid off about 3,700 people. He's fired a lot of the chief executives of the company. He's trying to, sort of resurrect Twitter and give it a new branding. And so time will tell as to whether or not the benefits outweigh the costs. Only time will tell. So it seems as though Musk might have done this not necessarily to make a profit, but to better humanity because he's trying to promote free speech. So really the best thing that he could possibly do would be to reestablish credibility and reestablish impartiality so that for example, President Trump was kicked off, and then it seemed as though to many, now I'm not saying this is true, but the perception to many people was that Twitter was left-leaning and was unwilling to censor people on the left, even if they were doing things that were questionable, but that anything on the right would get you censored or shut down. And so it seemed to many that Twitter was picking sides based on its own ideology, and therefore Twitter lost a lot of credibility and people started, pulling away from the platform. They stopped using it when President Trump was kicked off. There were millions of people that arguably only got a Twitter account to go see what President Trump was tweeting. And so when he got kicked off, people are like, well, why even waste my time? And so when that happened, a lot of the advertisers pulled out and decided, well, maybe this platform isn't as good as we thought. So again, the best thing that Musk could do is reestablish credibility, establish an air of impartiality, and whatever rules are applied for censorship, if any, should be universally applied and without any bias or with any political leanings. So if anyone is doing egregious hate speech or terrorism or anything like that, they would be shut down regardless of what side of the political spectrum they're on. So it would be a universal standard for everyone. And if he can reestablish the credibility of Twitter, then he can probably turn it around and he can probably make it successful in the long run. But only time will tell as to whether or not it's going to be worth it for him to do it. Okay, so that's my analysis. I look forward to your comments. Please hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep the dialogue going. And I will see you in the next one.